Hey guys, how's everybody doing today? I think I'm live. I think you guys could hear me. Let me know in the comments if you guys could hear me, see me, if everything is fine, the music's not too loud. Finally back. I moved. So I'm in a new place. I'm gonna be here for at least 3 months. So this is gonna be the background. If you guys first remember a while back, I used to make these live streams from here as well, but this is where we are right now, and this is kind of what we're doing. I am testing things out, but so hopefully everything will work and not crash. Let me check some stuff out. Let me know if there's an issue. There might be an issue. I'm not sure yet. You know, like I just want to make sure that things are working fine. Let me know if there's smooth playback on the streams. If not, you know, we will figure it out. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm getting like good playback. I might have to like jump on and jump off again really quickly to check it out. Let me know in the comments if, you know, things are streaming well or not. I have no idea, by the way, so let me know. What's up, Woo? How you doing? Yeah, let me know like if the streaming is actually working. I'll be kind of curious because I'm not sure if you know, if there's any performance issues. The internet's a little bit different here, and so I'm kind of curious if it's working or not. I might have to jump in and change something or on and off, but I can't tell right now. So let me know in the comments if things are working fine, if the stream is streaming fine, or are there issues. Before we get into the topic. Yep. Yeah, so the issue with video. Okay, let me try something here, guys. Just give me a break. I'm gonna be back in a second. I'm gonna try to fix it. Hey, I don't know if I'm back. Let me know if I'm back. Let me know if things are working or not. Technical difficulties in the new place. So we will see. We will see. The video was frozen. Things weren't working. Things were having issues. So I tried to fix it. I tried to fix stuff. I'm not sure if it fixed anything. I have no idea if it fixed anything, to be honest with you. I'm going to try fixing it, though. I am going to try to figure out what is happening and what the issue is and why things were not cool at all. So we will see. Refresh should fix the freezing. Everything looks okay to me. Let me know, guys, if you guys are getting smooth video. I am trying to fix stuff on my end. Might have to downgrade the quality of the video for the streaming to be smooth. So hopefully that fixed itself. So let me know in the comments if everything's been working smoother for you guys or not. This is kind of, you know, exciting for me to figure this stuff out on the go. But I guess, you know, when, you know, stuff happens, you just want to figure out, make sure that everybody's getting good experience. And so let me guys know. Let me know. Why buffering? Yeah, so if it's buffering and having issues, I would love to let me know in the comments. Let me know if I'm back in the comments. I'm randomly just talking at this point. But, you know, I want to make sure that the video is good before we continue and jump into the topic. You know, it is what it is. You know, things kind of have issues sometimes. Sometimes they don't. But I think my internet connection is not as good here. And so I might have to stream at a lower quality. So I just changed the setting from where I was before. So refresh your browsers if you guys haven't already, or if the video is working fine, and let me know if you guys could see me and hear me in the comments, and then we'll continue. Then we'll keep moving forward. I, you know, kind of just wanted to jump on, test everything. So thank you guys for that. Seems better now. Thanks, Brian. Engine Boy's here. Jose's here. Woo's here. So yeah, I think I was streaming at too high of a quality. I needed to switch back to 1080 streaming. But thanks for letting me know in the comments. You can't always have the best network wherever you are, and it is what it is, but it's not gonna stop us from doing these streams. So I'm excited to be here as always. I'm excited to get back on regular schedule. I'm excited also to start releasing some more regular content on my YouTube channel, which I'm going to do outside of the live streams. I'm also going to start making regular content for the videos, and also a bunch of other stuff. So perfect, sounds good, looks good. Thank you, Hologram Nunchucks, to have you here. So for today's topic, what I want to talk about WebAssembly, because not everybody, but there's some channels that talk about, and they're making it seem like if WebAssembly is the future. Maybe it is, or if you're not thinking about it, or they're saying stuff like it's gonna kill JavaScript. JavaScript is gonna die. WebAssembly is gonna take over. And the truth is, slow down, relax. If you're learning HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and React right now, you're going to be okay. You are going to be fine. You are going to get a job. And WebAssembly is interesting because I'll kind of show you. I have friends from Code Foundry. I love those guys, but they put out a nice little video here. Let me see here. Let me share my screen. I must have muted myself. My cat's here, and I think he pressed the mute button. Let me know, what am I, how much you guys missed. Thanks, Lucky. Thanks, Engine Boy. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Telegram Nunchucks. Let me know if the sound is back. I think it's back. So, I think a bunch of people kind of got sick and tired. Oh, we can't hear him. We can't see him. The stream is choppy. Let's bounce. But I don't care. But the point is what I'm trying to say is these guys, Code Foundry, love these guys. They made a video talking about how JavaScript, my kitty cat keeps pressing the mute button. So, let's have you take a break and not sit on the desk. But they made a video talking about how WebAssembly is the future, it's going to kill JavaScript, all that other great stuff. And what I'm going to say to you guys, don't worry about it. It's not going to kill JavaScript. JavaScript is going to be out for next 10 years, 100% for sure. So if you're learning HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you don't need to freak out. You don't have to worry about it. And the most important part is that if WebAssembly becomes more prominent, you will be able to use it with JavaScript. The only reason why these guys, and I love these guys are awesome, but they're on the ASP.NET and C# world. And so the reason they talk about WebAssembly being the future is because Microsoft came out with this thing called Blazor, which allows people who know C# not having to learn JavaScript and create single page applications similar to what React is with using C#. And the way they're able to do that is to the magic that ASP.NET does, whatever, with Blazor. It basically compiles their C# code to WebAssembly, which allows it to work on in the browser. And the interesting thing about it, they're not even writing WebAssembly code. It gets done behind the scene, where their C# Blazor code gets compiled to it automatically. So whatever. Anyway, the point is WebAssembly is not going to destroy JavaScript. So if you watch that video, don't freak out. But I did want to talk about it, just to kind of talk about this idea, is that there's always going to be these bleeding edge technologies that come around, and then at some point, yes, they might matter more. But for now, the truth is, if you're learning HTML, CSS, JavaScript with React and Node, you'll be fine, right? You don't have to be like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. We have to switch to something else, you know? And so there's many ways to get hired as a web developer. And whenever someone tries to push new technology or talk about something bleeding edge as WebAssembly, you don't have to freak out. And the cool news about WebAssembly, you don't need to you know, be like jump ship and all of a sudden I have to do everything with ASP.NET and Blazor and C#, because WebAssembly you could use with JavaScript, you could use with Node, and basically it allows you to take C code or C++ code that could have some stuff written on it that just functions faster natively, and you could compile it to WebAssembly code and run in the browser, and that code that you use in WebAssembly you could call from your JavaScript application. So in theory, you could have a React application that might have some image optimization thing that allows you to, let's say, edit an image and change it into a GIF, and that code could be written in WebAssembly, but you could call that WebAssembly binary code in your React application. So WebAssembly is designed like to work with JavaScript. And just to kind of, you know, show you this, we could take a look at, you know, some stuff here. So, you know, let's go directly to WebAssembly website, and you could see here, you know, it talks about what WebAssembly is. It's abbreviated as WASM. It's a binary instruction format for stack-based virtual machine. WASM is designed as a portable compilation target for programming languages, enabling development on the web for a client and server application. So that doesn't really say much of what it means, but basically what it says is that you could compile code into WebAssembly and run it in the browser. The thing with WebAssembly at the moment is that it doesn't have any direct ways of communicating with the DOM. So in any case, you still need to use JavaScript. But if you look at their getting started code, and like I was saying before, Code Foundry talked about Blazor and all this stuff, it's only one of many implementations of using WebAssembly. So it's using C#, and it allows people who are C# developers who don't care in learning JavaScript have a way to create single page applications using C# that compiles to WebAssembly. But as you could see, they have C and C++. You know, you could use Kotlin, and look, there's many ways to implement it. You could implement the WebAssembly with JavaScript code. You could implement WebAssembly with Node.js. So it's not like WebAssembly is going to be taking over, and if like all of a sudden nothing else works. No, there's many ways to implement WebAssembly, and you could use it with C# and Blazor. You could, you know, this is, I'm assuming this is exactly what they're going to talk about if I go here. And so build your blah 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 time. Yep, build your first Blazor app. So this is one implementation of using WebAssembly with Blazor, and it's one of many. So you don't need to freak out and be like, oh no, just because I don't know WebAssembly and I just know JavaScript, I'm not going to have a job. That's not true, and I'll talk more about why that's not true. But let's kind of go back here, and let's see. Like, look, they have using WebAssembly with JavaScript. Let's take a look here. Looking and running WebAssembly code. To use WebAssembly JavaScript, you first need to pull your module into memory before completing. And what they're saying here is basically you're going to have WebAssembly modules that might do something that's more performant, not to do with JavaScript. Maybe something that like modifies like graphic interaction or some sort or whatever. It could be many, many things. It could be some complex stuff where writing something in C or C++ makes more sense, and you could compile that into WebAssembly, and then you could call that in your JavaScript. So you'll be able to use JavaScript to call a WebAssembly module that will basically do that performant code, whatever it is that you wrote, and you'll be able to display it all using JavaScript in the DOM. You know what I'm saying? So like, and it just basically shows you here how to call WebAssembly modules and how to use them here with JavaScript. And the point that I want to share here with you is like where Coder Foundry says, you know, JavaScript is gonna die. They didn't really say that specifically, but they're implying it. They're, you know, getting a lot of people kind of like questioning themselves, and I get it, you know, because they want to talk about Blazor. But as you could see on this website, webassembly.org, you could use it with C, C++, you could use it with Rust, and they're just talking about one case, which is using C# and WebAssembly with Blazor. Doesn't mean that it's gonna take it over and JavaScript is dead. You could use it with any one of these languages, and you could see, as we saw here on the previous example, you could use it with JavaScript and NodeJS. So if you're starting out and you watch some videos and you watch people talk about WebAssembly and you're kind of freaking out like, oh my god, is it worth learning JavaScript? The WebAssembly is going to kill it. And the truth is that JavaScript is not going anywhere. So you cannot go wrong by learning HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and React. To that same point, you can't also go wrong learning ASP.NET and C#. But those are two different ways to accomplish a similar thing. You don't need to know both. So let me take a look at the comments here for a second, and then we'll continue this amazing conversation. We had a rocky start with our audio and video, but everything seems to be working. And yeah, Jose Font says the market will dictate who will win. And granted, I think WebAssembly will have its place, but it's not going to be like some people describe where JavaScript is going to disappear. As we just looked at their site, they have many implementation of using WebAssembly. It doesn't have to be C# with Blazor, and they're using it just because it allows C# developers create, you know, single page applications without using JavaScript. But you could also use it with JavaScript and Node, so it's not going to be like the end of the world. And even worst case scenario, like people saying, oh my god, WebAssembly, you're still not going to be writing native WebAssembly code. You're going to be using some intermediary language, and you know, it could be, right now it supports natively C or C++ and Rust and a bunch of other languages that I showed you, but that stuff will compile to WebAssembly. And I guarantee you that TypeScript is going to, or something similar to JavaScript, is going to have basically be an intermediary language that you'll be able to create and write your code, which will compile to WebAssembly. So it's not even an argument. And let's see here, Eli says, as long as that beginner developer become more experienced, it's much easier to learn a different language that would be more dominant in the future. So don't worry about the language and worry about the mastery. Yeah, 100% true. And my cat is on the table, that's fine. And like I said before, it doesn't matter what will happen. You're not going to be focused on, I mean, some of you will be, but you won't have a need or reason, because it's not even what's happening with C# and Blazor. C# and Blazor, they're not writing WebAssembly code natively. They're writing application in C# that gets compiled to WebAssembly. So there's nothing to say that there's going to be some intermediate language like TypeScript. Like JavaScript probably be more difficult because JavaScript doesn't have like strong types, and you know, assembly code doesn't support certain things. So you will have to have some sort of language. Maybe it's TypeScript, something like TypeScript, which is based off JavaScript. You'll be able to write in that native language and it will compile to WebAssembly. So it's a moot point. At the end of the day, you're not going to be writing that code yourself. And if you want to use Power WebAssembly, it'll more likely be, there are going to be modules, kind of like node modules that already been created, that you will be able to call from, let's say, your JavaScript or React application. Tammy says, hello. Hey everyone, I agree with Eli. There are always common concept structures across languages. You just need to pick the syntax and each. Hey Luke, what's up? How's it going? Great to see you here. Yeah, just remember, PHP isn't dead yet. WordPress makes her alive 100%. And thanks, Tammy. There will always be the new shiny thing, 100%. WebAssembly is definitely going to play a big part. But what I'm saying to you guys is that you will be fine, because there's going to be some sort of, like, you could write Lua to compile to WebAssembly, or C, C#, I mean C++. And currently right now, WebAssembly doesn't have like a really good way to directly to interact with the DOM. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. Hey, what's up, Tech Rally? How's it going? I gotta come visit you. I'm literally not that far from New York right now. So anytime. I'm going to be in Boston for the next 10 days, but well, until the 18th, hanging out. But I am going to, you know, after the 18th, be back and you know, would love to see you, Tech Rally, in the city. And Luke, you're absolutely right. WebAssembly is still far away off. It loads the container into the browser. They can't touch the DOM. 100% true. In Blazor, for example, you have to use JavaScript interrupt for most DOM interpretation, and that is exactly true. And I see why, you know, like a lot of people, you know, they talk about, you know, WebAssembly is the future, but at least be honest about it and say that there's many ways to skin the cat. Please don't skin any cats, but there's a bunch of ways to accomplish a certain thing, and it's perfectly fine. And as bad as that sounds, it is still nicer than React. Vue if you are also building out the backend and C#. And, you know, Luke, I appreciate you, my man, because it's true. Like, you know, everybody has their preferences. And Luke says, I freaking hate JavaScript. And that's perfectly fine. Like, I love JavaScript. I also had the pleasure of write code in C# at my last job. And I love C#. But right now, I'm really sold on, you know, JavaScript, and it's much easier in my job to just continue working with NodeJS just because it's the same language. And that would make the argument in the opposite code for Luke, because he hates JavaScript and he's a C# guy. He now has a way not to worry about JavaScript and at one point be able to create single-page applications similar to React using just C# with Blazor. But it doesn't mean that one is going to take over or the other. And I think it's whatever your journey is, you guys will be okay. And you just have to decide on the fact, like, you know, wherever you live, figure out what are the technologies that people are hiring for and make sure that you do that. And right now, you know, you don't have to agree with me. There's many ways to break into the field, and I'm going to tell you, you could break into the field like I did it, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript and React. You could break into the field without doing any of those things. Well, HTML, CSS you will have to do, but you could use HTML, CSS, some basic JavaScript, and C# and go the ASP.NET route. That's perfectly fine. Or you could learn, you know, Python with Django. Obviously, you still need HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to get a job. Or you could do PHP and Laravel, and again, you still need HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So like, yes, okay, there's no way around it. You still need HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to make stuff happen. So at this point, what I'm saying, there's many different paths. You just have to say the path that's good and continue on that path, and you guys going to get a job. It doesn't have to be with React. It could be with ASP.NET. It could be with Python. It could be with, you know, PHP and Laravel. There's many ways. The one thing I would say is don't jump around. Like right now, I do no C# development. I don't do any of the ASP.NET stuff because right now I'm focused on very small sliver of the tech that I want to use. I'm really focused on, you know, TypeScript, Node, and GraphQL right now. And it's fine because I know there's jobs around there. You know, so Northern Chimp says, I had looked at the docs. It's made for working with JS. Actually, yeah, you know, you could use it with a lot of different things. And North Chimp says, Luke, I see you're here since week and you dropped this bomb now. No. Luke, listen, Luke is a good guy, even if he doesn't like JavaScript. You know, which I don't know why. See, I like the Wild Wild West. I like my JavaScript to be fast and loose, you know, like pow pow, and like, you know, that's why I like JavaScript, because you could do things in JavaScript that you like C# wouldn't allow you to do, you know what I mean? So like I like the loosely typed language, but at the same time, you know, if you take a look at Angular, you take a look at React, they are moving into a direction where you need to be comfortable with using TypeScript. And what does TypeScript do? It adds some strong typing to JavaScript. And Luke here with the great conversation. I think the bigger divide is dynamically typed like JavaScript versus statically typed C# and Java. Here's one thing I'm going to tell you, and you're absolutely right. So I love JavaScript because I love React. I love the web stuff, but I also took a course. I didn't graduate out of college, but I went to my local community college and I took a C++ course just to kind of get the basics of programming. I also on my own did a bunch of C tutorials and learned some C. And at my last job, I learned C#. And I think it's very important for people as programmers to understand is that, yes, there's many different technologies, but if you're a student of programming, right now, I live the JavaScript world. I get paid for JavaScript, but it doesn't mean that I don't know anything about other languages and don't know the differences between the two and why some are better than others. Because at the end of the day, you're going to learn the thing that you're getting paid for. So let me tell you right now, I'm telling you 100%, if I got fired and the only jobs available to me were not even C#. If I got fired and there's no React jobs available, there's no C# jobs available, if there's a job that says we'll pay you $100,000, you got to do PHP, I'm going to do PHP. It's perfectly fine. As a developer, you should definitely, have the ability to pivot and learn and be able to move to the things that are going to get you paid. But at the moment where we are, you could get paid with ASP.NET and C#, you could get paid with JavaScript and React, you could get paid as a Python developer. So there's many options. So don't sweat it, guys. Just don't jump around. Pick one thing that you want to do, commit to it, and do it. And let's see, Luke here, if all web apps end up as compiled WebAssembly apps as opposed to Chrome V8 JavaScript engine apps, like now there will definitely be a JavaScript framework for scripting. It 100% true. And that's why, like I keep telling people, don't worry about it. Don't freak out that all of a sudden, because at the end of the day, no one's going to be writing WebAssembly. People are going to be using some sort of higher level language and be able to basically compile it to, WebAssembly. And that's just the reason why they're going to do it is because it's going to allow programmers easier time to create WebAssembly apps without having to struggle too much. That's always the case. Like, I'll give you an example. I don't know if you guys heard about, there's a core game development which is based off Unreal Engine, and behind the scenes everything is C#. At the end of the day, all the code gets compiled to C#. But to make it easier for new developers to get started where they don't have to learn C#, they literally use Lua scripting language that basically hooks in and allows you to write code that behind the scenes it's going to trigger, I don't know like the exact details, but at the end of the day, it's still going to get compiled to C# native code, but it's written with Lua that hooks into certain functionality that is based off C++. And that's exactly what NodeJS is. NodeJS allows you to use JavaScript to hook into C++ code that at the end of the day is being executed when you use your Node application. And let's take a look here. Engine Boy says, Python used to be one of my favorite languages, but it's replaced by JavaScript now. Love JavaScript. Yeah, and you know what? Nothing wrong with that. And Python is a great language too. You know what I mean? It's all good. You just have to stick to one that you like, and as long as there's demand in your area for that, you could get a job. You can't go wrong. And Luke says WebAssembly has opcodes. It is so cool. I'm gonna have to look into that. I haven't seen it yet, but with that being said, like, you know what I mean, like when you guys learning, you're trying to get a job, don't stress too much about these shiny new things that people are talking about, because in order to be popular on YouTube, putting a little bit drama out there, talking about stuff, it gets the hype going. But at the end of the day, you do have to take a step back and you have to be like, okay, what is currently like 80% of the web? What is being used? What do I need to know right now or the next year or 2 years, 3 years to get a job? And the truth is, I think in the title I said, JavaScript won't die at least for 5 years. It's probably going to be 10, maybe 15 years. I wouldn't worry too much about it. Just learn enough to get your first job, and as you start working at a company, you're going to learn the specific new stuff or technology that is required for you to keep your job. For instance, my first job, I got hired as a React and JavaScript developer, but their backend was written in C#, and so I had to learn C#. And the good news is I had a job, and I was literally getting paid to learn C#. Eli, what is your opinion on their argument about those AR, VR? Somehow Code Foundry is too advanced. I'm assuming that's what you mean by CF. That they said web browsers will not be the standard. Then I thought, what about the million websites? You know what? Like, it's interesting because, and it does, like, AR and VR, they're, first of all, AR, you could have it on your phones, right? Certain applications, you could have it on your, whenever they release AR glasses. And VR, it's, you know, Oculus Rift or whatever technology Apple is going to be. But it's still, all that tech is still really new, and adaptation is going to take a while before it takes majority of the market. You know, I still don't think that, because it's totally different need. We still have our phones, and we still, I think, you know, any web technology that works with your phone, that, you know, on your mobile phone, as long as it works, like, you'll be fine. And to get into VR and AR, eventually it will be a thing, but I don't see it happening overnight. I've actually done some VR development. I stopped learning VR development for now because I don't have an immediate need to, you know, in terms of jobs that I have and want to do, like, I don't have an immediate need to, like, switch what I'm working on just because I'm afraid I'm not going to have a job. So I think VR and AR will slowly start to take over, probably AR more than anything else. So what I would say is, if you're starting out and you want to get your foot in the door, unless you want to make games or something, start with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then as a backend, you could learn, you know, C# or Node or Python, wherever it is, you'll be fine. And as technology starts to get adapted, you could figure ways to enter into AR market or whatever market. And I think, you know, that's going to happen slow and over time. As long as you guys not afraid to pivot, you'll be able to start making decisions that allow you to stay relevant in the field. And let's see. And Luke, I know I really appreciate you, my man, because this is probably the hardest thing for you to say. JavaScript is the most popular programming language in the world. And you know what it is? Like, right now, and for the next, you know, at least 5-10 years maybe, you know, JavaScript is going to be at the top there. And I didn't do JavaScript just because I like it. I did JavaScript because, like, you guys have to understand, I'm over 40. I started to learn to code to make a transition into switching careers, and so I chose JavaScript and React because, in my opinion, where I live, it is the easiest way for me to get hired and get a job, and that's what happened. But as I started working in the field, whatever new technology that the job requires, you're going to learn it at the job. Like, to give an example, when I started learning React and JavaScript, I didn't do any GraphQL. It's only after I got my job, the project that I'm working on, the requirement was GraphQL. And guess what? I started learning GraphQL. Before that, like I said, you know, I used to work at a company where their backend was C#. Guess what? At my job, I started learning C#. And most of, you know, once you get into the door and you start working, you're going to kind of, you know, learn what you need to. Aria's my fiance, by the way. She just tried to recently call me and I couldn't answer because I'm on the live stream. Hi, Aria. Love you. Good to see you. Sorry I didn't answer your call because I'm on the live stream. Listen, yeah, I'm not ashamed to talk about my fiance on my live streams. Anyway, why don't people like JavaScript? Like, same reason why some people don't like Kotlin or Python. They have their own reasons. A lot of times people will be like, well, JavaScript has these breaking issues that they left in the language, and like or it's loosely typed, that, you know, and they come up with whatever reasons. And I would say, I don't like, to me, I just like programming. Like, I don't actually hate any language, to be honest with you. I love JavaScript. I love C#. I love C++. I love C. I just the reason why I don't learn every language under the sun is because, first of all, it's too much stuff to learn, and second of all, like, I wanna like be really good at the things I do know. So I created a little piece of kind of pie that I want to be good, and at the moment it's JavaScript, React, Node, TypeScript, and GraphQL, and this is what I'm focusing on and doing because there are plenty of jobs out there to be able to get hired. And if that changed, guess what? I don't mind changing. And like, I'll give you an example. When I had my C# job, I was always on Code Foundry. I was always like, C# by the way is a great language. ASP.NET is great stuff. Nothing wrong with that. And I was always like about C# and ASP.NET because that's what I was getting paid at the time. When I left that job, now I'm more JavaScript and React. A lot of times I'm biased by the tech that I'm using at work, and that's what I'm going to talk about it. But here's the thing, as long as there's a job for you, for the tech that you want to learn, go for it and do it. It's not a problem. And this idea of talking about this language is bad, that language is bad, it's nonsense, because at the end of the day, why are you learning to code? You're learning to code to eventually have a job that you like, and so just code and do the things that you like and stop complaining about other languages. Unless, like, you know, like you're like, oh, JavaScript is so bad, but I have to do it at my job. I wish there was something easier. Like, I get it. I feel the pain. But at the end of the day, to me, all programming is awesome. I love it. And whatever I am required to learn, I will do. Engine Boy says there's nothing which actually makes difference. End of the day, it's completely personal choice. And I guess he's referring to Python and Django. I have recently started learning Fast API. Yeah, I mean, like, literally you just, and he says it's absolutely awesome. I still say Strappy all the way. Strappy is the best. I'm not even gonna, like, that's all I'm gonna say. And Luke says, do you use Bootstrap CSS at your job? Current job that I have, it's a small team. We don't want to write all of our CSS from scratch, so we are actually using Bootstrap, and we're not using per se Bootstrap CSS. We're using React Bootstrap, which basically creates React components that have the styling of Bootstrap. So there's nothing wrong with that, and it's actually pretty common. And you know, to use Bootstrap or some sort of CSS framework. My last job, we used Material UI, and I know some people like Tailwind CSS. I think Tailwind CSS looks nice, but like, I'm not sure how I feel about putting all the class names in my components. And I personally like styled components. It's my favorite. By the way, thank you guys all for joining. I've been traveling, and I just got a new home for this live. I know at the beginning we had some hiccups because I was streaming at too high of a quality. I switched it to 1080, so the video should be smooth for you guys. The audio should work. But I want to thank you guys. Thank you for joining me on this amazing Saturday. I hope you guys having an amazing Saturday. By the way, I appreciate all of you guys, because you guys remember I am like some dude on the internet who broke into the field way into his late 30s, and I just want to share the reality with it, because I know how it's so easy to get, you know, kind of swayed away by other YouTubers in terms of jumping from one tech to another and spending many years before being able to get hired. And that's exactly what happened to me. Like, it took me 4 years to get my job, and I think I would have been able to get there much faster if I had a goal and a system. Do you use Sass with React? Well, because I use style components, like, you're able to write Sass inside style components. If I wasn't using style components, I would still use Sass because it is good. And Sass videos pixelating its resolution. You know, it might be the internet. We go with what we can get at this point. If you guys could see me and hear me, that's good enough for me, because I'm like in the middle of nowhere, and you know, we got lots of trees and not enough internet. And Luke says, for backend, there are theoretical reasons why dynamically typed language can never be as fast and reliable as strongly typed, but for frontend, you probably don't want all the verbose stuff. Yeah, I mean, like, I think, like, you just gotta pick what you like, because I would love to see like speed tests, because I feel like it depends what you're trying to accomplish. Like, because in some cases using Node makes sense, and in some cases having, you know, C# as your backend makes sense. And at the end of the day, like even Node, like, you know, Node, it's in JavaScript, but at the end, under the hood, it all compiles to C++, and it's utilizing, you know, C++ to get stuff done. Hack the planet. Wu says, how do you stay motivated to learn new things after work? I have no life. I basically just live code. Actually, I don't know if you see the bruise here on my forehead. I got punched in the head by a girl. I went to a MMA class. I used to do a lot of MMA, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, before switching careers. I took 3-year break, and I was like, you know what, let me go visit some of my friends, and sure enough, get cracked in the head. But no, how do you stay motivated to learn new things after work? To me, the way I look at it is like this. First of all, I'm like 41 now, and I want to stay relevant in my field, so I had to make a commitment to say to myself, look, if you want to continue to grow as a developer, if you want to continue to bring value to the work, that the place where you work, you need to constantly stay on top of your game. And so if I work 40 hours a week, I still dedicate 1 to 2 hours every day to continue to learn new things. And it's in my opinion, it's a small price to pay to stay relevant and to add value to the company that you work at, so you could get eventually more money and continue to grow as a developer. I just love this one. That's a weird place to have a hickey. It does kind of look like it, but I'm telling you, if you have someone who gave you a hickey on your forehead, you better run. You better run. I've never had a hickey in my life, by the way. I just want to throw that out there. Yeah, Engine Boy, I love it. I have finished and deployed the LinkedIn clone. Now waiting for Paul to give blueprint for a bug tracker application. Yeah, so if you guys on the stream, by the way, and I have a private community, eventually it's going to be paid community. It's going to be super expensive, $2.99. You're probably asking, why would I charge $2.99 for a paid community? Well, it's because I'm sick and tired of buying my own coffee, and it would be nice if people bought my coffee for me. But on that private group, we do a lot of great discussion, but we're also going to be building a bug tracker. And so right now this is free, and well, it's not free, you know, I just haven't figured out how to charge people money. But if you do want to jump on this private community, we have a bunch of people here right now. We have members. We have 28 members, and we talked about, questions. I have this checklist section. I'm moving it all over the place, which is basically kind of like, what steps did I take to eventually get hired? We talk about this, the basic steps, your basic projects. And the third one, we're going to be building a Cornerstone React project, which is going to be our bug tracker. And I did steal that idea from Coder Foundry. I am not ashamed of it, and there's a reason why we're building bug tracker application, which I'll talk about more. Then we also will talk about how to prepare for interviews, all this other great stuff. And you could see we have a bug tracker section where you'll be able to ask me questions. I'll have some video lessons. They're not going to be on YouTube. They're going to be just on this website. I'll give you guys assignments. And if you want to get in onto this without paying, the only way to do that is by invitation only. So you could send me an email at codingafter30@gmail.com. And for me to allow you to join this group, you need to send me a portfolio link or your GitHub link, just so I know that you're actually serious about your code. And then, Woo, what are you talking about? I sent you an invite. You probably missed it in your email. I'm gonna add you again, but I'm pretty sure I did send it to you, calling me out on my stream. But what I'm gonna do is after the stream, add you again. Invitations, because sometimes this stuff goes into a whatever folder. Go into your spam folder. I would check there just in case, but I'll send another invite to you, boo. Like, I apologize, you know. But anyway, if you guys want to jump in before this becomes paid, and it's $2.99, not a big deal. Like, I would have, in order for me to make money off this, I would need like at least like 1,000 members. But the reason why I want to do this way, I want to create and give you some additional value outside of YouTube, and I want to give you guys a chance to support the channel, you know, because I do have some websites that are hosted somewhere. I do like whatever, and one day I would like to transition into making some money off YouTube, which right now it's a negative game. I'm losing money on YouTube because of all the investments and everything else, and at the time and blah blah blah. But that's a way for you guys, if you wanted to support me, that's one way to do that. And also, like, I don't feel guilty about asking for money, because we are going to be building that awesome bug tracker project together, which is going to be a pretty decent size app. But you don't need to join the community at all, because every Tuesday night I do a live stream where I talk about building a cornerstone project that I'm working on. We're building it's called Dev Hunt, and it's basically going to be a platform where you guys will be able to share your projects. People will be able to upload their projects. You'll be able to manage like the steps of your project. And one day I will also have a section where recruiters are like could search developers based on their ranking of their projects that you guys voted on. So it'll make it an easier way for recruiters to find qualified people for work. Right now, the application doesn't look that cool because I'm not worried about the CSS. I'm more worried about the functionality. And yeah, and that's, we have the stream every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. And yeah, so you don't even have to sign up for the private community, because that's always going to be going on. And you know, this is, I could show you, this is the application we're building on the Tuesday night stream. You know, we have a blog section. Don't worry about the styling. We'll get that done one day. We have a login. If you forgot your password, you could, you know, reset your password. So we have some like pretty good functionality. You could see like the details, and all of this right now is just get the functionality first, and we'll get everything else working. You know, you could leave comments if you logged in. You could see the live demo of the application if you want to see it. So this is what we build on our Tuesday night stream. So you don't have to like sign up for that private group that we have. But if you want to support the channel and you want to buy me a monthly coffee at $2.99, you could always sign in and come up to this community. And like I said before, right now, because I'm too lazy and I haven't figured out how to charge people money yet, you could send me an email at codingafter30@gmail.com. If you share your project link to your portfolio, or your at least your GitHub link, then I will add you to this community. And let's see here. Let's take a look at the comments. La 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 la. So have I ever heard of a PlanetScale? It's a serverless database that offers good free tier. I haven't, and one day I'll take a look at it. Not at the moment. Yes, I'm still unpacking. I didn't unpack any of that stuff. I still have to get a lot of stuff ready before my fiance gets here. The bot dev should beware of trolling coding channels. Yep, that happens. I guess that's how you know you're getting famous. You never send me invite. I think we've already mentioned this and talked about. Woo, I will send you an invite again after the stream. Your blah blah blah. Okay, cool. I sent you an email for Dev Hunt sign up. I thought you were already on it. Oh, for Dev Hunt. Yes, give me some time to kind of get situated. I will add you, Engine Boy. So this basically, if you guys want to play around and break the Dev Hunt application, you could email me and I'll add you guys as users. There's not a lot of functionality you could do, but as I build it, it'll be great to have some users that could test the application. I think in the next stream, well, last stream we created a table, and the reason why I created a table is because I want to add a bug tracker thing inside the application. So those of you guys who are testing the app, you guys can enter bugs so I could work on fixing them. June says, hi Paul, what's up? Recently I have started to learn JavaScript. After clearing the fundamentals, I was looking to practice of coding, and I have found your video about Code Wars. I love that video. Yeah, thank you so much. And Code Wars is an excellent place, especially for beginners, to get started with practicing and solving JavaScript challenges. And Wu says, I'm thinking about sharing my experience via blog articles with tips, tricks, code snippets. Is there anything that I need to consider? I think you just got to get started and start doing it. I think that's a good idea, and it's a good way to kind of market yourself and build exposure. 100% great. Do you have a story on the painting on that back? Besides that, back in the day, like I was really into martial arts, and it's kind of hard to see because my background is blurred out. So I was really into the Chinese culture and history, or any Asian cultures. And so when I was younger, when I was like 13 years old, this is a pretty old painting, I was just randomly like walking, and there was a tag sale where people were selling stuff, and I found this painting for $5 and I bought it, and I really like it. It's really, really cool. It's you know, I love red, black, and those are the colors this painting has. It's kind of nice, and it's a Chinese town. It's kind of hard to see when it's blurred out, but you know, that's how I got it. Is it an exciting story? No, but that's why I have it, and my mom never threw it out, and so we kept it, and here it is. And yeah, so guys, if you, by the way, thanks for joining the stream. I really appreciate all of you guys. Like I said, you guys are the reason why I do these live streams. I love the community. I love chatting with you guys. So if you have any questions that you want to talk about, this is the time to do it. We talked about WebAssembly, basically the short story. Don't worry about it. When it becomes an issue where like, oh, I need to implement it, don't worry about it still, because there's going to be some intermediary language that you'll be able to use similar to JavaScript or whatever it is that will compile. So don't worry about it. If you're getting into web development, learning HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and React, that's one good way to get a job. Not saying it's the only way, but that's the path that I took. So don't get swayed by all the funny and crazy technology, but stick to your guns, learn the basics, and you're gonna get hired. And yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions about anything. Literally, we could talk about anything. And if you guys don't have anything to talk about, I could add a couple of things that I think are important for anybody looking to get hired and get started with web development to get a job. And one thing that I want to say, okay, Engine Boy, there's a difference between me liking the culture and then me supporting a communist dictatorship. I came from Russia. Communist is bad. I do not support communism at all. And I think anybody that does communism, especially like the China, I'm not even going to say it because they're probably going to put a hit on me, but it's not good. You know what I mean? So let's not stretch the painting and go that far. But all jokes aside, I like the food. I like the culture. Yeah, I like all cultures. But at the same time, like a lot of the stuff that goes on there, like I definitely don't support. And I was actually impressed how Biden as a president decided to take a hard stand, because I was kind of worried about it. But regardless, let's not talk about politics because I don't care about politics. Let's talk about some coding stuff. And if you guys if you guys have any questions, let me know. But one thing that I want to talk about, because I was on Twitter earlier today, and if you want to follow me at Twitter for some reason, it's coding @coding30. I was on Twitter, and
Coding Phase and this other guy, Chris, they did a little talk. Your Chinese credit score went up. Yes. Talk where they talked about some tips for junior developers, and they talked about bunch of stuff. And one thing that I kind of brought up is that, you know, Coding Phase, the other guy there, and like a bunch of other people, they were giving some good tips in terms of getting hired. But one thing that stood out to me is that, like, I have a marketing background, you know, and sales background. I know Coding Phase is really good at marketing and selling yourself. And the one thing they were talking about is that in order to get a job, you can't just think as a developer who basically, I just learned to code and I'm good, I'm going to get hired. No, the truth is you need to not, like, learning to code is one thing, getting hired is the second thing. And you do, like, especially if you don't have a college degree, if you are, you know, self-taught, you need to figure out how are you going to stand out as a developer, and you literally have to build yourself as a brand. I mean, hence, like, me being on YouTube talking about coding, me having a blog, me, you know, having a LinkedIn, because I want to market myself as a developer so I could get hired. And that's something that I'm realizing that a lot of people that learning to code, they, you know, don't know about this idea that just the fact that you know how to code, you are not going to be able to get a job easily unless you do certain specific things. And one of the things we discussed about, and Coding Phase actually said, is that, you know, you need to learn about presenting yourself in a very targeted way to companies. And so when you build a portfolio and you build a project, yes, you could build random websites, but if you know there's a company you want to get hired, let's say, as an example, I'll use medical HR company, which deals with medical records. If you build a project that basically does something with along the sides of medical HR, medical records, something that that company is very familiar with, you're going to have a higher chance of getting hired. So, like, this idea of being able to market yourself and being able to, okay, I have this portfolio, like, that's why, like, Coding Phase talks about Spotify, and, you know, if you wanted to become a Spotify developer and you wanted, like, learn how to build e-commerce stores, right, something specific, or if someone wants to hire you for them to build a Spotify store, that should probably be in your projects. If you're looking in e-commerce, if you're looking to build or get hired at, like, a medical company that does with records, build an app that represents that. But anyway, like, basically long story short is that you guys have to always think about how can you make yourself stand out from people around you, and how to market yourself and how to present yourself to have a chance over some other dude next to you who's trying to go for the next job. And that could be a whole different, you know, stream that we could talk about later. But I just wanted to kind of say that there's a lot that goes into it. And Luke, thanks for stopping by. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Luke, for great questions and comments. Really love it. So what I would say, like, go through basics of JavaScript, and part of that basics will be some basic DOM manipulation, and you should definitely be familiar with the basics, but you don't have to go as crazy as, like, okay, let me build a full complete application using vanilla JavaScript. If you could build, like, basic stuff and add some behavior and at least understand how to target HTML elements, you know, with JavaScript, you're good to go and learn React 100%. And yeah, like he says, it's not necessary, but you should learn it. Yes, it's not necessary to work with React because you're not going to be doing DOM manipulation with the vanilla JavaScript way when you're using React. But I say you should still learn the basics so you kind of know the problem that React solves and how it makes it easier to interact with the DOM by using virtual DOM in React. Yes, and so let's open it to a bunch of questions, guys. I'd love to hear about, like, one of the reasons I do this live stream. By the way, if you haven't smashed the like button, smash the like button. Just because, not because of me, but because of all the awesome people there in the chat. But the thing that I want to say, like, I do these live streams not just for me to talk about and give my opinion. I hope I'm providing some sort of value to you guys, but I also want to have you guys ask questions, talk about stuff, and I want to engage with you guys. So don't be shy. Come up with some questions that you guys want to ask, or ask me anything, and let's open up the chat and chat some more, guys. Because like I do want to say, like, I don't want to be the only one talking. I want to hear, like, I literally care about what you guys do, what struggles you're having, where you're getting stuck. Like, are you able to get interviews? Are you getting jobs? Like, the Saturday stream is all about talking about the struggles and talking about what can we do to help us get hired. And if we're not getting hired, let's kind of dissect and identify what are some of the issues we are having. And while you guys try to come up with questions, I want to say, like, when you're looking to get hired, there's certain things like you should have certain basics. And I'm gonna kind of bring up this post while you guys think about any questions. And man, Lucky, I know that where you are, it's like super early. I might be able to, like, today I started late because I had a minor emergency in my house. I started 1 hour late, but I might be able to bring this live stream to 1 hour earlier than I usually started. So I used to start the stream at 7 p.m. Central Time. Maybe I'll be able to do it at 6, but I'd have to double check my schedule. So maybe that will happen. But I know, like, no matter like when I start the stream, I know not everybody is going to be able to learn. But in terms of you guys like looking to get hired, while you guys questions, I actually like this question. I'll come back to the thing that I was going to show here in a second. Zake says, how do you stay healthy with a job that requires you to sit and be in front of the computer a lot? And the truth is, my health actually declined because I was so into switching my career, and I gave up a lot of time, which is terrible, when I used to exercise. And I literally did not exercise consistently for a year, and I did gain a lot of weight, and I am not as healthy as I used to be. And because I got cut up, and I said to myself, look, the most important thing for me right now is to get a job. And so I stopped eating healthy, I stopped exercising, and that was bad. So what I would say, and something that I started doing now, I started literally saying to myself, look, in order to be productive at work and not have a lot of stress, you need to exercise. So I just recently, moved back to where I used to live. And so I used to train martial arts and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and MMA. And so, like, I said to myself, let me start at least working out 3 times a week. And if you don't have a gym to go to, that's not a problem. What I would say is schedule time 3 times a week at least, where you're either doing some sort of cardio or lifting weights. For me, what I started to do, I've been doing it for the past 3 weeks now. I do a very simple routine. For half an hour, I just jog a little bit not every day, but 3 times a week. So that comes down to like 2.5 to 3 miles. And then for lifting weights, I literally just do one exercise, which is like the king of all exercises. Some people could argue with me, do deadlifts, but that you could decide whatever exercise you want to do. But what I would say, just schedule time to work out, schedule time to make sure that you're doing some active activity, because over time, because I've seen it with me, if you don't treat your health and exercise as a priority, you will continue to go backwards. And to give you an example, I'm literally like way overweight than I used to be, and I'm literally feeling like crap half the time. And now I'm like, Jesus Christ, I should have been making time to exercise. And luckily I'm back on track. But damn, like, yeah, you just gotta make it a priority. And Web Dev Junkie, great questions. Have you used Strappy Enterprise, or do you normally just use the community? Is the community version just missing auth feature or something? So Web Dev or Cody, I haven't used Enterprise, and I think the only difference with Enterprise is not even authentication, but they have some basically you have your admin user, you have your manager user, and then you have a user. So it basically limits you to 3 users that come with your Strappy application. But if you wanted to add additional users, then you would have to switch to an enterprise, you know, version. But in my case, like, that's not even an issue, because you still have users and you could create your own like user type, and you could just in the back end write your own policies. It just doesn't come straight out of the box with the community version, like the enterprise version. But I love Strappy. Strappy 4 just came out. I'm gonna play around with it. And again, like in my case, like where I'm working right now, you know, the team is small, so something like Strappy is a really good aid that helps us to get started quickly and create a full stack application. And so for me, like, you know, it doesn't have to be Strappy, but for me, like, I will use Strappy until there's an issue where there's something that Strappy can't solve. Then I would focus on writing my own backend with Node or whatever. But at the point is in my personal projects, if Strappy solves all the things that I need to do, I'm just going to use Strappy. I know a lot of people started using Keystone.js, which is also great. I still like Strappy the best, but you know, like for me, use Strappy until it's an issue, then just write your application Node. Or obviously, if the company I was working for was using Node, you know, for their backend, then I would just do that. But for a lot of my personal stuff, that's what I do. And let's see, I'll get back to questions. Just want to go in order. Yeah, that's a great tip. It's also a good way to experience an actual job interview and not waiting to learn everything before applying. Yeah, some of the stuff that we said before. And Lodi says, what are some projects that will help me grasp all React concepts? I would honestly say the first thing you should be able to do is take a HTML, CSS, and JavaScript website and just recreate it with React. And once you do that, then I would say, you know, at the most basic sense, if you add some sort of blogging functionality where you could create a blog, update a blog, and delete a blog, you'll basically cover all the React concepts that you need, and you will also have a chance to work with an API. Yeah, that's crazy. Getting hired here in India as a self-taught developer is hard. Everybody asks for a degree first, and I think coding is only for having fun in my life, not to expect a job locally. And that's just so crazy, and I could totally see it because the way the culture is in India, and so many people do have degrees, and so many people not only have a 4-year degree in India, or at least go for it, so many people have masters. And if you don't have like a degree, it is very difficult. What I would say, maybe yes, in India it's very hard to do, but if you live in India or any country that is not US, going on sites like Upwork and trying to build your authority on Upwork and starting to do jobs, even if they don't pay you as much as they pay US workers, it's still good for you based on the economy you guys have in India. So going on Upwork is probably like one of the best ways if you're in a country where to get hired without a degree is hard. To be honest, I'm not sure right now which language has the ugliest syntax, because I've been only sticking to JavaScript, and you know, some of the languages I used before is Python, Ruby, you know, C++, C#, and I guess like from my experience, C++ I would say has some of the ugliest syntax. Once you do some of the, it's not even ugly, it's just too like busy for me. But I think like, you know, I don't think there's like an ugly enough language unless you start to like do assembly code. Then I'm like, yeah, that's kind of makes no sense. WebDev Junkie says, I guess, talk about the Strappy, I guess I'm confused how they limit users since it's open source. Yeah, I figured you could just add it, the code if needed, since it's, yes, 100%. And I think like the Enterprise Edition, you literally don't need, like, one additional thing they do is they do offer support that is a little bit better. Like if you have a question, there's a place to reach out. But because it's open source, like a lot of, like in our state, I'm using community edition of Strappy, And whenever some functionality is missing, you just write the code and you add that functionality, and there's nothing stopping you for writing custom code to get that done. So literally there's no reason of using Community Edition unless you just want to have that policy stuff straight out of the box and you want to have some of that support. And Strappy even said that Community version is enough for basically everything, and it's always going to be free, and they just have the enterprise version with some additional benefits like more support type of stuff to give people a reason to pay for it, I guess. I mean, Java, I haven't done Java. From what I hear, it's basically like C#, and in my opinion, like C# is like pretty, like it's standard, like it's not that ugly. But I've never done Java, so I can't really tell. But I think Java, some people make a joke that's basically C#. Yeah, then that's a pretty good strategy. When exercising or doing something like that, it's a good time to review what you've been learning. A lot of times, not maybe doing like exercising, but I do go for walks. And when I go on a walk, I think about the code that I wrote, some of the prompts I had. And a lot of times, by the time I'm done with the walk, I am like, I have some sort of solution that like I'm able to implement and do. So walking is great. Yep. But what I was going to say, and guys, if you have more questions, ask more questions, but I wanted to talk about briefly, because the point is for everybody to get a job, break into the field. And I know if you live in another country, there's different challenges that you have to kind of go through. But there's not one thing that's going to land you a job. And one of the things that is very important is this idea of, being able to network and be able to get people in a similar circle that could help you give opportunities. And all my job opportunities that I had are based off someone I know. And I'll give you a great example because Web Dev Junkies here, Cody, we met through YouTube, and he, told me how his company was looking for some developers, and I reached out to him and he connected me with a recruiter, and I was able to get the first interview based on Cody's recommendation. And I think it's important to be able to build these connections on LinkedIn or other social like media sources or Twitter, where you start to build your own community of developers that that you could ask for opportunities. By the way, even though he recommended me, I still had to give him my LinkedIn and my resume, and my LinkedIn and resume had to be, strong enough to be able to convince the recruiter to actually talk to me. And so one thing that I want to share with you guys before I take a look at some of these questions, and if you guys have questions, throw them in the chat, is some of the basics. Like, you should definitely have a GitHub, you should have a LinkedIn, and you should have a basic portfolio site. And I use the template. I didn't even build it myself, where people are able to kind of see what you're about, your experience. I call like your resume or your business card website. And I currently don't have any projects here, but you could just as easily add a project section where you showcase your portfolio. But what I would say, if you're starting out, as a bare minimum, in my opinion, you should have a resume type of website like this. You should also have a LinkedIn, and you should also have a GitHub. So here's my GitHub. Here is my LinkedIn, and start building connections on LinkedIn of people that you could reach out to when you're looking for a job, because it does make things easier. So as a bare minimum, I was going to say, if you haven't done this yet, set up a basic resume website about stuff that you do, the tech that you use. Set up your LinkedIn, and make sure you guys, not Twitter, but make sure you guys also have, I closed the GitHub. You have your GitHub where you're posting stuff, showing that you're in the code, that you're doing the work, that you're doing the stuff that you need to show potential hires that you are a developer, or you're writing code daily, or you're doing stuff that's relevant for you to get a job. Yeah, this is another great way to build experience, and is a good way to start is to actually build a website for your friends that have small businesses and use those projects to showcase what you could do. I definitely differentiate you from fresh graduates 100%. If you could do that, that's definitely going to help you. Zeke says, is being a merge stack specialist the standard requirement to get hired now? No, it's not. Like, that's one way to go. Like, I didn't even go full stack when I first started. I literally just learned HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and React. I knew how to work with APIs. So if someone had a back end, I knew how to interact with it through the front end with React. But that could be enough. And MERN, like, for me, it's kind of interesting because all the jobs I had, none of them use MERN. So we had an application which is React front end. It was a C# backend, and our database wasn't MongoDB. It was PostgreSQL, or when we use C# it was SQL with Windows. And then the job that I'm working on now, we have our React front-end application. Our backend is written in Node, and we're using PostgreSQL. So that's not a MERN application. So I think a lot of people talk about MERN, and there's a lot of tutorials for MERN. And I don't know why it's the case, but I know there are MERN jobs available, don't get me wrong, but in my case, you know, I would suggest learn React for your front end, decide what you want to pick for your back end, but since you already know JavaScript, might as well learn Node. And for your database, use Express, and, you know, I think it's called like SQLize or whatever, and build your backend not with Mongo first, but with SQL type of database, because those are really common in the jobs that are out there. Majority of people are using SQL based databases. So that's going to be my opinion on that. That is insane. That is insane. Like, what I would say to you, you know, don't give up. Keep searching. It literally becomes like a numbers game. But start, like, if I were you, I would definitely start a Upwork. And if you live in America, I would say don't do Upwork. But if you live in a different country where the economy is different, where you're able to undercut like an American salary and still make money in your country, Upwork is a great place because you're able to charge less, but in your country that income goes a long way, and so you could make Upwork work. And what I would say, start a profile on Upwork and start trying to get gigs. You know, start practicing and going through the motion. And eventually you'll build a, you know, high enough reputation on Upwork. Granted, it takes time, it's hard work, and you'll be able to get some pretty nice jobs. It's just a crazy hustle on Upwork. So if you live in the States, you know, or other countries where it's not as crazy as India, like, I wouldn't recommend Upwork. I would recommend just try to find a job. But in countries like India or other places where stuff is so difficult and competitive, like, go on Upwork and build your niche. So David God damn, I can't pronounce names. Where can we access this checklist? I'll share it here. It's in my private community that eventually is going to be a paid community, $2.99 a month. I know it's expensive. I get it. I just don't want to buy coffee anymore. I want, you know, or it's a great way for you guys to support the channel. But what I'll do is I'll share the link to that with you guys here. And if you want to get on this, like, I'm still trying to figure out how to, because I'm so lazy, I'm still trying to figure out how to charge money for this community that I have. I haven't figured that out yet. And so if you want to jump in this community for free, email me at codingafter30@gmail.com and send me your GitHub link or your portfolio site link. That's the bare minimum, and I'll add you to it. But eventually it'll be more money, like $2.99, which will, like, I'll be rich. Let me tell you, if I got 10 people on the website, that's $30 a month. And $30 a month, that's basically a Netflix and HBO Max subscription that I don't have to pay for. So that's pretty amazing. But I just shared a link to that blog post that you could see the checklist that I use to get hired. And this is something that I use as a template to help others get hired. And I had friends who followed this path and were able to kind of, build some projects based on this and get hired as well. So it's not set in stone, but it's something that I used and was able to get hired. And if you have nothing, this could be at least a path for you to use to get started. Yeah, and hopefully you'll be able to move somewhere else. But I totally get the hustle. I totally get the struggle. It's very difficult. This is something a lot of people don't realize. I just want to say it out here, is that in America, and I'm not speaking for everybody. Please don't attack me. But a lot of people in America have this mindset like they're entitled for work. They're entitled for a position. So they do the bare minimum and then they expect the whole world to be given to them on a platter, where in other countries there are people that work so hard, study every day, and they put in the work, they put in the hustle, but there's just not enough opportunities, or the competition is so high, like in India, where so many people have bachelor degrees that's the bare minimum to get hired. And even if you put in the hustle, you do all that work, there's still these things that prevent you from being able to get a job. And that's crazy. And to all my Indian patrons who are watching me in India, what I would say is that do what you're doing, but also go on Upwork and start trying to get gigs. And I will say that living in a country like that, it makes sense, where in US doing Upwork doesn't make sense. And it's just because the economy, in the US, my rent, $1,500 a month, where, for me to do something on Upwork for $15 an hour, it doesn't make sense because I won't be able to pay my bills just because of the economy. But someone living in India making 15, 20 bucks an hour, that's humongous. You know what I mean? And so, or even 10 bucks an hour, it definitely will go a long way. So that would be my suggestion about that. Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if that would actually work. Yeah, nice. Yeah, there's so many so many smart, hardworking developers in India with a lot of knowledge. It's really crazy how smart a lot of these guys are. But then at the same time, that's why it's super competitive there. So guys, don't be shy. Ask questions. Let me know what you guys want to talk about. Because again, I obviously have things I could talk about, but I much rather hear about what you guys are doing and kind of hopefully have a conversation about something that will help you to get to where you're going, to make changes in your life, to get hired or to start making money as a developer. And anybody who's struggling, here's the thing, regardless where you live, regardless where you are, it's true that if you live in certain places in the world, things are a little bit easier. But you have to understand that everybody who is trying to change their life will have some sort of struggles, and you can't judge yourself based on other people. You can't be well, Paul lives in the US, that's why he got this opportunity. And it could be true, but it doesn't help you in your country to get that opportunity. Or I can't be in US, be well, the Joe Schmo here next to me, he doesn't have the same experience as I did, but he was able to get a job. How did that work? I can't judge myself with others, because at the end of the day, they're not me. And it doesn't matter if Joe Schmo gets a job. It doesn't matter if that, what matters is that, can I get a job? And if I can't, what things do I have to do to be able to get hired? And, because at the end of the day, that's the most important thing that I can worry about. So wherever you are, whatever you're doing, is you have to say to yourself, yes, who cares about all these other people getting jobs? The most important thing is can I figure out what they're doing to help me to get a job, for me to get my goal? And so a lot of times when we compare ourselves to others, it gets very depressing and it really gets very frustrating, because we start to think like, it's like, oh, life is not fair. Yeah, life is not fair, but at the same time, worrying about somebody else who got a job or somebody else who did this thing better than you, that it doesn't help you. So spend your time trying to figure out what things can I do to help me stand out above the rest to get hired. And there's a reason why a lot of people like start YouTube channels and talk about code, because they're trying to build their brand. There's a reason why people start writing programming articles and blogs, because they try to go that extra step and to build some sort of authority in their field. There's a reason why a lot of people, let's say in countries like India, go to Upwork and try to find opportunity there, just because that's one way to get past the requirement of having a degree. Because when you go on Upwork, you have access to the global market of clients that you could get, you know, or finding your own clients, which is really hard, by the way. But there's always something that you can do to kind of get ahead and move forward. And so I asked a couple further back, roll, blah, 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 stream. Here's another. Is there a stack on some sort that uses Postgres and Node with other common languages, libraries, Express? So you could do like React, Express, and Postgres. Basically, I think when you use MERN, you use Mongoose. And if you're going to use PostgreSQL, there's a Node package. I think it's called Sequelize. But yeah, there's just a package that you use to allow you to use Node with Postgres. I forgot what I mean, there's a bunch. I think it's called Sequelize for Node, and you'll be able to write queries using Node to connect to your Postgres database. And again, like MERN, like everybody wants to teach MERN, but a lot of jobs, they use SQL and stuff like that. So I think getting comfortable with that is a good plan. So, you know, guys, as we're about to hit 1 hour and a half. If you guys don't have any other questions, you know, we could wind it down a bit. Yeah, I want to thank all of you guys for jumping in. And, you know, I know at the beginning we had some issues with the stream because I'm in a new location. My internet here isn't strong, so I had to dial down the settings, get everything to work. So thank you for your patience. But I think, you know, things work great now. And you know, I really want to say that I'm so amazed by the awesome community that you guys have here, because you're not part of my community. I'm part of your community. And I want to stress that to you guys, because I want you guys to know that the reason why my channel exists is because of you guys. I'm not special. I'm just some dude on the internet who decided to switch careers late in life, but you guys are the bricks in this community. And I want to thank you for joining me, coming on and chatting with me and having fun. And I really value all your opinions and everything we talk. And I just want to say you guys are the best. So thank you for hanging out on Friday night, and in Lucky's case Friday morning or Saturday morning or whatever whatever crazy time it is. That's insane. And honestly, like, I appreciate and always thankful. And this is why I do these live streams, because I do want to be honest and tell you how you don't have to try to, you know, do everything and try to find these crazy new tags. Like just stick with the fundamentals, do your research, and stick to building stuff, and you're going to get hired. There's a lot of YouTube channels, because a lot of YouTubers, in order to stay relevant, you got to make drama content. You got to talk about the shiny thing. You got to talk about stuff that is exciting. But at the end of the day, that excitement is not going to get you hired. What's going to get you hired is experience in the things that are in demand in your area. Do search, see, is it ASP.NET? Is it PHP? Is it React like it is in Austin, Texas? What's in demand? And learn the basics, build good projects, get your resume ready, get your LinkedIn on, make sure you have your GitHub, and you will be able to get hired. And this is one reason why I don't learn new things, and I stick with React. I stick with the things that are relevant to my job to keep working. God damn lucky. I will skip sleeping this time. You're like a champ. And that's a great question. With your regard, with your YouTube channel, what is your niche that's different from other channels? Like, it's really simple. For me, it's for people who are over 30, who are looking to switch careers and don't want to waste their time by watching YouTube videos that talk about all this crazy stuff, but at the end of the day, it's not helpful for them to get hired. And honestly, like, the biggest thing that you could do to get hired is to condense what you want to learn, get really good at it, build projects, and get, start going on interviews and get hired. Like, because at the end of the day, like, no one has time to waste. And I wasted 4 years before I got hired. And reason I have this channel is to kind of cut through the BS and tell you how it is and tell you the reality. Coding is not easy. It's really hard to get a job. You got to put in the work and you got to build stuff. And if you don't do that, you're not going to get hired. And I just want to be completely honest. And the beauty of this is I don't gain anything from my YouTube channel. And at the same time, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time. And so, but at the same time, I am fed up. Not everybody. There's plenty of good YouTube channels. But at the end of the day, a lot of those people are YouTubers. They just want you to watch their content. But for me, watching other people's content is not going to get you hired. Like, you doing work, you coding is what's going to get you hired. And I want to make sure that if you're watching my channel more than you coding, stop right now, go back to your terminal and build something. So, and the reason why I do the live stream, let's say on Tuesday, where we build a project where it's unprepared, it's live, it's ugly, I make a lot of mistakes, is because I want to show you that building stuff by yourself is hard, but you got to start. And I'm hoping that because you see someone who makes mistakes, who's constantly learning while building, will excite you to build your own projects and actually work on them until you finish them, so you can put them in your portfolio to get hired. And what I want to do is show you guys, look, I've been on YouTube doing this Tuesday night stream, rebuilding this project, and over time it's taking shape and becoming something substantial that I could put in my portfolio. And that way you guys, I could be like, look, no excuses. You saw me build a project in a Tuesday night stream, you saw me use it on my portfolio to get a job, or blah blah blah. Like, that's those steps to do it. And I want you guys to make sure that you're building stuff, you're building projects, you're learning to code, and you're doing the most important part is you're learning the skill that will get you hired, and you're doing all these other things that I talk about. And one thing that I'm going to say before because I can talk about this forever, is that there is no shortcut, there is no secret. The secret to getting a job as a developer is the work and the commitment that you put in to get hired. And if it's been, let's say, a year and you still didn't have a job, it only means that there's something in the steps or the process that you're doing is not working for you. And a lot of times it's not learning a new technology. It's just, maybe I need to build a better portfolio. Maybe I have to rewrite my resume. Maybe I have to practice more interview stuff, and you fix it, and then you'll continue, you iterate through the process, and you'll get hired, and that's the steps I use, this the steps I recommend. But the secret is not me. The secret is not some other YouTube channel. The secret is you doing the work and going through the projects. We had Brian here earlier on. I don't know if he's still on listening to the stream, but I met with him when he started learning HTML and CSS, and he showed me his first website that he built. And to be honest, like, it did not look like anything. And you know what? I'm not saying it to kind of be harsh. I'm saying it because he was just starting out and he didn't care. He just was like, you know what? I'm going to start with the basics and I'm going to keep building. And he followed the process. He has a system that he's following. Learn HTML, learn CSS, then start with JavaScript. I recently talked to him and he showed me some of his latest websites that he built. They're way better and they look really good. They're starting to take shape. I could see his improvement. And the only reason he was able to do that, not because of me and my YouTube channel, but because of his work ethic and his commitment to his studying and his commitment to being like, look, I just got to do the work. I don't have to wait for anybody. I just move forward, continue to make progress, and do what it takes. And that's kind of like the secret. Anyway, I want to say thank you all for joining me on this amazing, amazing Saturday. Come back next week, Saturday, 7 p.m. Central Time. If you want to do a live where we code stuff, I do that every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central Time. And I'm also a co-host on Coding Addicts Monday night live stream. So if you want to see me on Monday, I believe it's 8 p.m. Pacific Time with Coding Addict, his YouTube channel. Go check it out if you haven't seen it. And with that being said, thank you so much. I want to say I really appreciate all of you guys, all the great questions that you guys ask, and I hope I'm bringing value. And now that I'm situated in my new place, I'm not only going to do these live streams, I'm also going to try to release more videos on YouTube, which I think will be helpful. And with that being said, thank you so much for having such a great chat with me tonight, and I'll see you guys later. Take care, guys.